What's up, everybody? My name is Francesco, and today we are going to talk about these watches that are on the table and basically what type of watch is right for what type of athlete, right? I'm a certified coach, and all watches are not made the same, and not all athletes require the same watches, right? So today we'll cover a few topics. We'll go over, first of all, which brand or which camp should you be in, right? Team AppleWatch or Team Garmin, because there's a whole bunch of different watches to choose from. And second, once you choose that, which watch should you get, right? Should you get one of these two Garmin watches if you are in Team Garmin, either the 945 or the 645? Should you get maybe like the 245? In terms of Apple Watch, should you spring for like the newest one? Like this one is not the newest one. This is the Series 5. There's a Series 6 out now as we record this, January 2021. Basically, this video is meant to be a little bit, it'll age, but it'll be a little timeless in the sense that it's more of like an overall discussion on what kind of watches to get and what to look for. Anyway, we'll do a very brief overview of Apple Watch versus Garmin, right? And what's best. So they both have GPS. They both track you. You can get into the nitty gritty of like, all right, is this GPS like, to the split meter? Is it accurate more than this or that? You can look on DC Rainmaker. He does like all these in-depth reviews. Super knowledgeable guy. I'm definitely not, doing that level of reviews because I feel like for the most part, does it really matter if you've run, 804 meters versus 805 meters or 6? Like, these watches, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are definitely inaccurate watches out there, but for the most part, the Apple Watch and the Garmin watches, they do a pretty decent job of wrist-based heart rate, which we'll get into like different metrics later, and GPS. So from a GPS standpoint, especially if you're a beginner, like starting off, I wouldn't worry about GPS accuracy if you're sticking with the established people like Apple and Garmin. Cool. Number two is the usability of the watch, right? So the Apple Watch is awesome. And spoiler alert, I do wear both actually. So I wear both a Garmin and an Apple Watch, and for different reasons, and I'll tell you why later. But so the Apple Watch is awesome because it gives you notifications, right? It'll give you messages, emails, all these different like taps on your wrist. And it helps me sort of keep my phone down, right? Because a lot of times when we get notifications, it's not something that we actually have to like see. We just kind of want to, know what's going on, but we don't actually have to open the email and do all that stuff. So it stops me from picking up my phone all the time. So I have the Apple Watch from like a lifestyle perspective or a productivity perspective. The reason why I don't like the Apple Watch for fitness, and this may be the ultimate reason why you end up going with Garmin, is the Apple Watch, as you can tell, and this is like a weird loop band. By the way, if you do get an Apple Watch, you need one of these loop bands. It's basically like sweatpants for Apple Watch. It's pretty comfortable. But anyway, the reason why I don't use Apple Watch for fitness is because it's all touchscreen, right? And especially during the summer when you start sweating, that touchscreen all of a sudden, like it does not work anywhere near as effectively as you would want it to work, right? Like there are times where I'm literally standing there just, mashing the pause run or whatever button, and it's just not going because the watch is sort of covered with perspiration, right? So it's definitely like this watch is definitely more of a indoor like tech watch and not so much like a heavy duty sport watch. These Garmin's, as you can tell, I'll use this 945 as an example. It's all buttons, right? There's 3 buttons on the left, 2 on the right. Same with the 645, 3 on the left, 2 on the right. No touchscreen whatsoever. And that's awesome, right? Because now you don't have to worry about your finger touching it, and you can use it with gloves, right? With the Apple Watch, you can't really use it with gloves unless you have those gloves that you're able to touch a smartphone screen with it. But these, you could just mash the buttons. They're like kind of big chunky buttons, so it's easy to hit, navigate the menus and stuff like that. So from a user interface perspective, the Garmin watches definitely win in the lens of sports, right? And same, so if you're doing sports like swimming or stuff that's definitely around water, then you really don't, the Apple Watch, you basically have to lock the screen and it'll stay locked and it'll track your swim. But you're not going to be able to like mess around and hit the button or hit like digital buttons on the screen, because obviously the screen's locked. And so when you're done swimming, you unlock the screen and then you can use it. Versus the Garmin, you can be messing around with buttons as you're swimming because it doesn't rely on that touch screen. I will say one benefit that the Apple Watch has over the Garmin's in terms of tracking swims, right? Even though it seems like the Garmin wins, but the one thing that the Apple Watch has that the Garmin does not have is that the Apple Watch will do auto lap count, meaning if you swim, you have a 25-meter pool and you swim, 4 lengths, right? So down and back twice, the Apple Watch then will track that. And when you stop at the end, it'll automatically pause. Like when you stand up at the end of the lane, the Apple Watch will pause it until you start swimming again. Versus the Garmin, you have to manually pause and resume the workout. It's not gonna automatically pause it if you just stand up at the end of the lane and you don't actually mess with your watch. Why is this important? Well, it's important because that might throw off like your average, average time per lap or average metrics. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a small difference, but cool. The next thing to consider between Apple Watch and Garmin is the price. So Apple's been doing a good job, and it's almost like weird to say this because like Apple is so against consumer prices, right? Like they have the premium stuff, but Apple Watch is actually becoming pretty inexpensive. Not cheap, but not as expensive as it used to be, right? So you can get like the newest Apple Watch for like 300, like something in the low 300s. And you can get the Apple Watch SE, which basically has all the features minus the pulse oximetry, which is like your blood oxygen content, which we can get into later. But for basically the same watch as the new one, minus a couple of the features that you don't really need, you can get it for like $250, $270, something like that. And you can get older generations for even cheaper. So the Apple Watch will tend to be cheaper when compared to the higher end Garmin. So like the 945 is the as of right now, it's the flagship Garmin Forerunner watch. The 645 is sort of like the flagship running only watch for Garmin, not the multi-sport kinds. And so it kind of depends on which side of the spectrum you want to get in, right? Garmin has some cheaper watches than Apple, but they also have more expensive. So that's basically it between the two, right? So now let's break it apart a little bit. So let's compare different Garmin models, because most athletes, I will say one last thing, and I'm sure I'll forget, in case you haven't noticed, my Apple Watch is talking. We'll talk about accessibility for the blind later, because for those who don't know, I'm a totally blind athlete and coach. And so I use like voice to navigate, which is why my Apple Watch was just talking. But anyway, these two Garmin watches, they are sort of the higher end of the Forerunner series, right? And so this one's a 945 and the 900 series, so 945, 935, 925, and the 700 series, so most recently the 745, I think it was. Those are multi-sport watches. And what that means is designed for those athletes who either want to do some like bizarre workout types that the regular Garmin's don't have, not bizarre, but like more out there, or they want to do multiple sports in one event. That seems pretty like advanced, but it honestly, we'll talk about it in a second. The 645 here is sort of the flagship of the running watches, right? Not multi-sport, just running. So you have the 600 series, then you have the Garmin 200, so like the 245 is the newest one, or the 255. And then you got the Garmin 45, just like, 2 digits. And those tend to be the much cheaper running watches. And so you'll lose the more premium features such as pulse oximetry, which is the blood oxygen. You'll lose like certain types of HRV things. Honestly, I don't know, we'll just like get it over with right now. I wouldn't, if your only reason to get a more expensive watch is to get like blood ox, I honestly wouldn't bother, because besides the first time you get the watch and you try out blood ox just because it's cool and it's, like you're never gonna use it again, right? Like who like I'm around amateur athletes, professional athletes, like no, you don't really use your blood ox, right? And if it was really that important, like if you're like mountaineer or something, you might pass out because of altitude, you're not going to rely on a very faulty wrist-based pulse ox, because the wrist is a very bad place to take those samples, right? You want the fingertips, or you want like at least the inside of the wrist. So you would have like a dedicated $10 machine thing from Walmart that you can sort of clip the end of your finger and get your blood oxygen content, right? So like honestly, it's cool that they have it in the watches, but I honestly would not pay anything extra for them if that's like a consideration of yours. Yeah, and so basically the difference between these two, right? So let's say, all right, if you want an entry-level running watch and you don't really care about open water swimming tracking or triathlon tracking, if you just want like a simple watch, then go with either like the double-digit watches. So I think this is the Forerunner, the 45 or the 245, right? Those tend to be the entry-level ones. And you could, I mean, it says entry-level, right? But that doesn't mean it's a beginner watch. Like you can do marathons and stuff with those watches. Very easy. It's the same thing, right? It tracks your GPS. It'll tell you your pace. And if that's all you need, that's all you need. These two will let you put music on them, which I guess it's great. If you run with your phone, you might as well just put your music on your phone. But if you really want it on your watch, I guess you could put it on your watch. In terms of battery life, the 645 will last you about a week in non-GPS mode. And I think it's like 12 hours with GPS track. The 945 will last about 2 weeks in non-GPS mode. So just like walking around town kind of thing. And in GPS mode, this 945 will last, I think it was like 36 hours. So if you were going to do an event that lasts longer than 12 hours, you're going to want the 945, right? Ultra marathons, Ironmans, if you're going to take longer than 12 hours. The AppleWatch battery is this Series 5. I believe it's like 5 hours, and I think the Series 6 extends that to 6 hours. So, it depends on how fast you run a marathon or even a half, whatever it is. You could get away with that. Otherwise, you would need one of these Garmin's. So I'll be straight up. I originally got this 645. And so I'm a triathlete. I've run marathons and do all this stuff. But I don't really care about the multi-sport aspects of the 945 because never in a triathlon, like during the swim, I'm never checking my swim time on my wristwatch, right? I'm just focusing on swimming. So I don't really care about tracking the swim. Transitions, I don't really care about tracking transitions because you're at a race, right? Like the race will track it for you by you stepping on the mats. So like I don't need my own personal timepiece on my wrist tracking it. Like I could just look at the overall, the time of day, right? What is it, like 9 a.m. or whatever? And just gauge my overall time that way. Or just have like a simple timer going. Like I don't need to track my transitions, right? So basically the only thing I need to track is my bike and my run. And the 645, even though it is not a multi-sport watch, it can do a bike workout and a run workout. So, and it takes 2 extra seconds, but all I do is I start a bike workout, I do the bike, and then I end the workout and just quickly start a run once I start running. So like, the difference between these two watches at the minimum is like $200. So my thought was like, all right, why am I going to spend $200 just so that I don't have to press a couple extra buttons to end the bike workout and start the run workout? And I'm going to use it like a couple times a year, that feature, right? To do, because I don't really, tracking open water swims, like I do my swim workouts in the pool, so on and so forth. So I got the 645, and then I realized that this 645 did not do one feature that I really wanted, which is the reason why I got this 945. And that feature is that the 645 does not pair with a biking power meter, right? This will only pair with a speed sensor or cadence sensor. It does not pair with a power meter. This 945 one does pair with a power meter. Now, if you don't know what that means, that obviously means you don't need the feature, right? So clearly you don't need to worry about getting the 945. But basically what that is when you bike, right, it'll tell you how much power you put out, and that's what most cyclists train with, right? You don't really train towards your speed on the bike, you train towards the power. That's a whole other video, but whatever. And I wanted to be able to tell my power when I'm riding indoors, right, on rollers or on a dumb trainer if I'm not around a kicker for some reason, if I'm on vacation or something. So whatever, it's like a small thing, but I said, all right, I plan on doing some longer races, longer than 12 hours GPS, plus I want to pair with a power meter. I'm just gonna get the 945, right? Those are literally the only 2 reasons why I got this 945. So first of all, I guess the conclusion of that, little tirade, whatever, is just because you do multi-sport does not mean you need a multi-sport watch, right? You could definitely get away with a 645. The other benefit of the 645 is the size. As you can see, the face is a lot smaller than the watch, right? Or than the 945. So if you match it up against each other, it's definitely smaller that way, and it's a bit thinner, right? So from a size perspective, it's cool, right? I like this smaller one because like I don't want this massive thing on my wrist, right? I'm 6'6", but so it's not about like having a big watch on a small wrist, but it's, I don't know, like the less, less is more, right? Less is more. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I will say that these two watches on the back, if you flip them over, they take two different chargers, right? The 945 takes this type of the normal Garmin charger that I'm kind of used to, this sort of figure 8 plug on the left here. The right with the 645 takes sort of a clamp thing that sort of clamps in from both sides. I don't have that charger around me, but just take my word for it, it's different. Not that really makes a difference. The AppleWatch obviously takes that magnetic thing that Apple puts out. Changing straps, obviously AppleWatch is easier to change the straps. I've never changed a Garmin strap, but I hear it's pretty easy. And besides that, I mean, they're both great watches. If you want something specifically for fitness and you don't want to worry about touchscreens, obviously Garmin is the way to go. By the way, they also have like the Vivo Active Garmin series, which is sort of going towards more of that smartwatch side, right? Where it has a touchscreen. And so that's cool if you sort of want the Garmin features, but with a touchscreen. Honestly, the three watches that I would consider for people, if you want a Garmin, I would consider either the Garmin 245, and that's for most people, right? If you want a longer battery life because you're planning on doing like ultras or Ironmans or stuff like that, then get the 645. And if you want to be able to pair with a power meter, or you want really long battery life because you plan on doing ultras or doing like super long races, then get the 945. I think like the other small differences are pretty small. Like the 945 has mapping. You can get like color maps on it. Honestly, like looking at a map on this tiny wrist, like I'd rather just pull my phone out, honestly. But it has it if you need it. And price wise, this one is about $200, maybe a little more expensive than the 645. So yeah, again, like I think I would be perfectly happy, again, doing triathlons, doing marathons, stuff like that, perfectly happy with doing a 245 because I don't need like all, the latest features and things like that, especially if it doesn't add anything to my fitness, right? Like knowing my blood oxygen content, it's cool the first time, but it doesn't really matter, right? So that's about it. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Oh, before we end it, let's do this little ending. So all the sighted people, you can log off right now. This little last part is just for those who are blind or low vision, and talking about how do I use this as a blind person. So the Apple Watch, as you heard before, has a built-in screen reader called VoiceOver. And here you go, you'll hear it again, hold on. Come on. There you go. If you hear that, it just hit 1408. Enter passcode, right? So basically you swipe on the screen and it has a voice inside. And so you're able to check your messages, your mail, all these different things. You can see what pace you're at. It'll speak to you. Every Apple product has this, right? Whether it's a Mac or the iPhone or whatever, they all have it. The thing with the Garmin's is they have zero screen reading software, right? So basically the way I use it is just by memorizing buttons, right? So if I'm here, there's some home screen, whatever. I have to hit start, and so if I want to do a run, right? I memorize. I got to hit start once. That'll bring up the workout menu. I know that it's on run because I memorized it. So I have to hit it again. Now, you guys who have vision, you can see what's here. I don't know if this is suggesting me a workout, like oh here you should do this type of interval workout, or if it's ready to run. So what I have to do is I go back one by hitting lap. And then I hit run again, and then it starts. That's just to make sure. And then I pause, and I know if I do that, I have to wait like 2 seconds, go up, and then one more. Okay, and I'm assuming that trashed the workout. So yeah, if you're blind or low vision, if you can't like read it, you're basically just stuck memorizing like the menus and stuff like that. The good thing is that they both have apps. So the Garmin has the Garmin Connect App, which is Android and iOS. And from the app, using your phone and stuff, you're able to access and read all the workout data, your pace, your splits, all that stuff. So if you view like the Garmin watch as just a device that gathers the info and you do all the analysis on your phone, then that's a good setup. And that goes for both blind folks and sighted folks too. The Apple Watch wins in terms of accessibility, but it's not a game changer if all you need the watch for is just tracking data for analysis at a later time. Garmin does have a feature, by the way, that lets you set in audio cues. So like I can make it so that, all right, every 3 minutes it'll announce what my heart rate is, and every 2 minutes it'll tell me what my current pace is. And because the Apple Watch has a speaker on its own, right? But the Garmin watches have no speaker. So you either have to use your phone as the speaker. So you carry your phone in your pocket, and then the Garmin watch will talk through the phone and announce, like, heart rate, this level, your pace is at this level. Either that, or you can pair headphones with the Garmin watches. And the way you know how to do that is just go into settings and hit up Bluetooth and pair it with headphones. Anyway, I've been talking way too long. If you have any questions, leave in the comments. I'll try to get back to you. And if there is enough questions about things, then I'll make a second video. But this is the basics. This is basically Apple Watch versus Garmin. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all next time. My name's Ben Francesco. See you later.